What is going on? Welcome back to another episode of It's a Blast podcast. My name is Mike, also known as the UD Happy Captain on X. Today, I'm talking to Josh Green, a Chief Warrant Officer 3 in Air Defense Artillery in the Army, who you may know as OnexPunchXDad on social media. Today, we're talking about what led him to join the Army and everything that he does as a digital content creator. Let's get started. Welcome to the It's a Blast podcast. My name is Mike. Here, I talk to members of the veteran and military community about their leadership style and how the military has affected their lives. Let's get started. What is going on? I am sitting down with Josh Green, a warrant officer in the Army, but you might know him as OnexPunchXDad on social media. Brother, what is going on? How are you doing?
Good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude, I'm a big fan of your content, Staff Wars, the voices that you do. I want to get into all of that, but I think, in order to start the conversation, we got to start at the beginning, which is why the Army, man? What made you want to join?
Great question. I think it was not the plan all along, is what I would say. I was a musician and an actor. I dropped out of high school because I just wanted to participate in the arts. I was in a couple bands that didn't really take off, but I was having fun. I liked being on stage. I met a girl who became my wife, who was an actress, and she got me involved in some theater stuff. We actually went and did some professional theater down in San Antonio together. Again, just love that rush of being on stage and stuff, but doesn't pay well. And you join a show, you get a part in a musical or whatever, and that run ends, and you have to be willing to go get another job. And I was young, right. Man. I was undisciplined, and I really did not. I liked the rewards of that life, but I had no context for the work and the discipline that is required to make that your profession. I just wanted all the benefits of it. But anyway, all that kind of went away, and I needed a job. I got a job at Blockbuster when those were still a thing. You're fired.
Dating yourself there, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Back when a Friday night included going to get a couple Domino's pizzas and renting your favorite copy of a game or movie. But got fired from that job. I won't say why, but I got fired. And I was jobless. I really liked this girl. She had gone back to San Antonio to do more theater jobs, and I had nothing to offer. And so I walked into the Air Force office. They were all in a strip mall in my hometown, and they saw my tattoos. And this is back in 2008 when they were pretty much just firmly not gonna deal with that. They said, "No thanks, man. The Army's hiring. See what they say." So I walked in there, and there was a guy tossing a football up in the air, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to join the Army." And he said, "Right this way, young man."
Yeah, so, dude, 2008 was, I think, that's when I joined as well, right? So 2008 was, you went to the recruiting office, you said, "Hey, I want to join the Army." They could get you shipped right away. I mean, it was like one and done, man. "Hey, dude, I want to join the Army," and you're gone.
It blows my mind to hear stories about people like, yeah, I went in, and then 5 months later, and then 6 months later, I finally shipped. I'm like, man, I practically walked through that building onto the bus. I mean, it was maybe 2 weeks flash to bang back in 2008.
Yeah, I told, for me, I was closing out some stuff. I went and talked to a recruiter. I said, "Hey, I want to join the Army, but I can't go for 2 months." And that was like, that was like a nightmare for them, right? But I was like, "Look, if you don't bug me for 2 months, call me at the 2-month mark, I will join." And I think July 23rd, they called me. And I mean, I was starting basic training on August 13th, right? I mean, so it was like, a couple weeks, from flash to bang.
Yeah.
So did you get to choose what job you want to do, or were you just kind of like, "Hey man, take me"?
I mean, I did well on my ASVAB, and I had a pretty decent GT score. So my options as far as what the Army was kind of trying to build up at that time were pretty decent. In my head, I think I wanted to be an MP. I don't know why. I'm kind of glad it didn't turn out like that. I don't know why. 19-year-old me didn't have a clue. But I saw one on there that seemed like it had a pretty pretty low entry level as far as what you'd need to know to get into it, but the benefits that you would gain as you learn how to do the job and learned, and understood it more and more, was 14 Juliet, which was basically a radar and early warning systems operator for air defense systems. Didn't have any clue what that meant. Didn't know anything about what I'd be doing. Didn't have any context for what kind of life it was going to buy me joining the Army, but it legitimately sounded the smartest. So I was like, I'll be a 14 Juliet.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I tell you, like, I think we've gotten better about it as an Army in the last, couple of years about talking about different jobs that are available to people. I think there's something like 190 MOSs in the Army, across all three compos, guard, reserve, and active. But like, I joined as an 18 X-ray, which was a special forces candidate because my brother did that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it didn't go well for me, so I failed selection, and they were like, "Hey, man, you want to go EOD?" And I was like, "I have no idea what the hell that is." It worked out well. I mean, in the long run, maybe if I had known about it, I would have done that first. But back then it was like you turn on the TV commercials. I forgot what we were in 2008. Was it Army of One or whatever the case may be? But it was like people fast roping and kicking down doors, which is super cool. Never going to poo-poo that ever, right? But like, that's what I thought the choices were.
Yeah, I mean, my whole context for joining the Army was those commercials that used to come on between Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Toonami on Saturday nights, and movies. That was it. That was my entire, and video games. I guess it was like, I guess I'll go live that life. I have no idea what it's going to be like on the inside, and it was different. It was vastly different than what anything that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we had a guy in my basic training who joined up on a Ranger contract because he played Call of Duty. Like that was like the reason. It did not go well for him, but like, his recruiter was like, "Hey man, you can do this." And he was like, "I love the games." And, sometimes I wonder whatever became of that person, but, hey, you wound up switching over, right? So 14 Juliet's got, that MOS went away, correct?
It did. Yeah. They schwacked. So it was really, I think the thinking was it was kind of a broad, it was too broad of an MOS. So we were kind of suffering from the mile wide, inch deep problem of air defense. For anyone who doesn't really know about it, I certainly didn't know about it coming in, but it has different layers and flavors. You have air defense that supports the maneuver force. So it's really like your Stinger man pads up to like maybe your Avengers. Now we have CRAM that's in there, which we were just taking on as I joined the Army, up to Patriot, which is anti-TBM or tactical ballistic missile, and your air breathing threat, up to THAAD and even the global defense mission. There were 14 Juliets doing all that. So you might go support mechanized infantry here and be on a Sentinel radar, supporting Stinger man pads, stuff like that. And then your next assignment, you could be in a bunker at a THAAD site. So they broke it into two MOSs, basically the HIMAD or the high altitude air defense, your Patriot, your THAAD, and the other one was 14 Golf, which was your maneuver support, atom cell, stuff like that. So I was in a Patriot battalion, so I became a 14 Hotel. I became one of the HIMAD guys. And
so, it was there, you went to Korea, right? I think I watched, one of your YouTube videos, and you were talking about, how you weren't the best soldier when you joined up, right? I kind of want to talk about that some.
Yeah, no. That's fair for sure. I wasn't. No, I was, like I said, when I joined the Army, I was this, you close your eyes and you imagine just like a scruffy little emo kid, lip piercing, hair in my face, obsessed with girls and hanging out and stuff. I was not a very reliable person. I had a lot of bad habits that needed to be trained out of me. And that carried on into the Army. I was always pretty fit. I did put on some muscle coming into the Army, which was nice. But yeah, I was lazy. I was definitely not like, hey, we need 4 guys. Private Green moved to the back of the formation. I was not a great team player. I was constantly getting chewed out for being late. I think I drove through the gate with an unregistered car. I let my registration expire. Got in trouble for that. Nothing major. I never got an Article 15. I can say that. I never got so bad that I was just like on the chopping block. But I was just like, my boss used to tell me, Green, when you show up, it's like two good guys leaving. I was just not. I wasn't a worker. But I had leaders that believed in me and they saw potential in me and they brought me into situations where they knew I might thrive. And that helped give me the confidence to say, hey, maybe I could be a sergeant. Hey, maybe I wouldn't be so bad at actually taking care of soldiers or helping people learn the job better. And so it just, by the time I made it to Korea, I was fully bought in and I was doing better. I still made mistakes, but I was taking the idea of being a soldier and taking care of soldiers more seriously. And it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. There's buy-in that has to happen. So much like you, I would say that I was decent at my job. I was not a good NCO when I was an E5, right? When I was a brand new E5, I was just happy to be an E5, right?
Yeah.
Happy to be a sergeant, but I wasn't good, and I think there's a misconception, that people have that it's like, hey, when you become a sergeant or when you become a warrant officer or when you become an officer, you're just good. Like you're ready for that job immediately. I want to talk about, your transition into becoming a warrant officer, because it sounds like you had some people there some leaders that definitely helped provide mentorship and guidance and direction, and saw something in you that maybe, you didn't see in yourself or maybe you weren't ready for. Let's talk about that piece, man.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition over?
Yeah. No, it goes back to that thing of, being put in a situation where I'm at the greatest advantage to learn the job and understand the job. There really are no dumb jobs in the Army, right? Like you can take
Right.
anything from what I do to what you do as EOD, to the infantry, to targeting and field artillery, to flight, to being a cook, to being an HR tech. All of those jobs and fields have levels of depth to them that go far beyond just cooking or whatever, disposing of a bomb or shooting down an aircraft or whatever. But you have to find a advantageous entry point to get people to start looking deeper than just like, hey, you push the button and this happens. And that's what happened. I had at first it was NCOs, and then as I kind of progressed through those kind of 10 and 20 level skills of like, hey, Green's pretty reliable on this system. Let's pair him up with Mr. So-and-so, our warrant officer, who was a W1 at the time. He was a brand new warrant officer. Took me under his wing, basically let me kind of right-seat ride with him and kind of understand some more of that depth little by little. And let me kind of take the wheel. I'm a kinetic style learner. I think a lot of people are combinations of like auditory and visual, but I am, if you don't let me touch it and mess with it, potentially break it, I'm not going to know it. I do my best when I'm able to have tangible experience with something. And that sent me into the stratosphere as far as my enthusiasm for the job. And it was 100% a warrant officer who took me there. And then we kind of talked about off pod, but the real big push, because at the time, what you ought to have done was wait till you hit about 8 to 12 years, drop a packet, so you don't have to make CW6 to retire, right? But he told me, he said, hey, man, Sergeant Major of the Army is working on guidance that if you have tattoos below the elbow, you're not going to be able to become an officer or a warrant officer. So you got to poop or get off the pot, buddy. And I said, well, I've got 5 years and I'm pretty good. Hope that's enough. So he worked with me. We put my packet in. I was actually a qualified non-select on my first board. Didn't really think much of it. And then 6 months later, they did another board. They reboarded my packet and I got probably the most life-changing email of my entire life while I was sitting on CQ.
Perfect. That's the perfect place to get a
Yeah.
life-changing email. Dude,
Yeah.
so a question about that, you talked about you were a qualified non-select, your first look. So does every packet automatically get looked at twice? Is that how that works?
I believe so. Yeah. I think, man, it's been a while since I've like done a deep dive on like a sessions board, but yeah, back then it was, you submitted a packet. And if you were qualified non-select, it meant, hey, we would pick you, but we just filled the quota. And, we got, there was probably maybe a staff sergeant or someone with a little bit more accreditation or something ahead of me that just was above the cut line. So it's honestly, if you have submitted a warrant packet, I guess as a PSA, and you were qualified non-select, that doesn't mean they don't want you to be a warrant officer. It just means you got to wait in line a little longer. So, but yeah, they reboarded my I did not tell them to. I did not do anything. I didn't have to go back in and recertify. In my mind, it was like, well, we tried, we didn't make it. I went to ALC. I just kept on being an NCO, doing my job. And out of the clear blue sky, I got that notification that I was good to go. So
I want to go back to something that you were talking about right before, making the board, which is I got to put my hands on it. I got to break it. Look, that resonates with me. That's kind of the way EOD school works. It's very, very hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
I was a terrible high school student. Like I pretty much almost failed out of high school, right? And by the way, after high school, the only option I'd really given myself was community college. Yeah. And I almost failed out of community college. I didn't get an associate's. I didn't get anything, right? I just did a semester or two and I joined the Army. Yeah. But, look, every parent tells their kid, like, hey, you're just not applying yourself, right? But
right.
I don't think I really realized that till I joined the Army, when I was like actually doing shit and I was good at it, right? And I liked it. That was the other thing. It's like I was putting my hands on stuff and I liked it. I guess that's kind of the question is like, you said you were a high school dropout. Obviously if you do well in the ASVAB, you're a pretty smart guy. If you got into ADA, you're a pretty smart guy. Is that where it finally clicked for you? Where you finally got to start putting your hands on stuff and working with things to make it realize like, I got this?
It was a gradual thing, right? Like initially, and probably, I would imagine you were probably in the same boat of no part of me thought that I was going to be a career guy. Oh, yeah. I was dead set on get to college, get some job experience, get the resume bullet, and get up out of there. Can we cuss on? Can we cuss on here? Can I say fuck?
Cuss, get
the fuck out of there. That was my plan, straight up. To put it lightly. Yeah. I was just going to get in and really just take what I knew was there, coming in from the outside. Right. But it was a gradual thing of realizing like, hey, I just troubleshot and fixed a problem without an adult nearby. Right. Or, hey, I gave guidance before a mission to my squad and we completed the mission. Those things, it's the things that you do that you didn't plan on doing in this line of work, I think, that are really going to equip you and also give you that confidence to say, hey, I'm not half bad. You know what I mean?
We build people up with that confidence.
Exactly. And it comes from surprising places. There's a lot of things that I've figured out that I'm good at and that I can really utilize professionally and everywhere in my life, that those are not things that were on my enlistment contract. You know what I mean? They're just things that, maybe I would have gotten them somewhere else. You get them through being in industry, you get them through being in the corporate world, but ultimately the Army is it's people. That's the root of everything we do. It's the business of people and learning how to interact with people as you grow, learning how to show people the way so that they can take a seat at the table with you and help you solve your problems. That's really the biggest challenge we have for us career guys, is getting people to buy in, right? To influence them to say, hey, yeah, it sucks. And that's kind of like in my content, that's kind of why I am very transparent about that. Yeah, we got to do a lot of dumb stuff
Yeah.
But man, those victories are worth it every time.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that I think military content creators there's a big they're in one camp or they're in the other camp, right? There's people that are in the military who are content creators, and there's content creators who are in the military. And it's like a very fine line, right? I think the people that seem to resonate, people like you, people like Tyler Butterworth, Mandatory Fun Day, Lord of Lips, like those people that are in the Army. The Army's their primary mission, but then they talk about it on social media, as opposed to
Yeah.
the people that are on social media and wear a uniform, because we know who those people are as well.
Yeah.
But I think the transparency is what gives credibility,
Yeah.
to what we do. It's like, I don't think anybody thinks that the Army or the military is a perfect organization.
Right.
We're getting better. We're a pretty good organization, right? But I think if we gloss over, issues, right, people stop listening to you. It's the reason a
Yeah.
lot of people look to social media when it comes time to join the Army. They
Yeah.
go, let me look at somebody who has this type of mindset, who's in the military, and then they look for transparency and honesty. What was your transition like over from the enlisted side over to being a warrant officer? Was that a pretty hard transition for you, or was it pretty natural?
It absolutely came with challenges. It was kind of the first thing that I knew was going to be difficult in my career that I kind of elected into. So all of the challenges were really, I leaned into them a lot more because anytime like at walks, you're having a bad day and you remember like, A, I put myself in this situation, and B, yes, I'm getting treated like a private right now. I'm getting marched to chow. I'm getting smoked if I don't have my canteen completely filled to the top, stuff like that. But also at the end of this, I'm going to be a warrant officer. I'm going to have the greatest opportunity out of really anyone in my branch to affect change and to get things done. So you just bite the bullet and you keep on barreling through. It is jarring. I mean, walks ain't ranger school, but it is, again, it's the hardest part about walks is getting adults to be adults. And you do have this situation maybe similar to your green to gold experience where all of these people are the A-type personality. They're the go-to guy or girl from their organization that was just, if anyone should be doing this, it's them. They're just so excellent. Well, you get all those people in the room, you realize none of us are all that excellent. We just think we are. So you have to work together. You have to be willing to be a team player, and you have to be willing to accept some humility that is harder for some people who've been in the Army a long time. We have people who had been already in the Army 18, 19 years being told, hey, it's your turn to clean the shitter. You know what I mean? So for some of them, that's a challenge. For me, I had 5 years in the Army. I was like, Roger, got it. Cleaning shitter. So
no, I think Green to Gold does. There's some parallels there, right? So I actually help run the Green to Gold Facebook page where we give the answers to the test, right? People are like, what do I need to do to have a successful packet, and we help them build it out.
Sure.
But then watching people not make it after the board results come out, you definitely get to see, hey, maybe it's time to go back and do some introspection and do better for the next board. We definitely see a lot of that as well.
Sure.
How did the social media thing come about? I know you said you're a performer before joining the military, but how did that come about?
It was not planned or expected at all. I think it was during COVID. My wife and TikTok had just kind of come out, and people were starting to get on there. And my wife had kind of got on there and was doing some of the trends, from back in 2020. Like chicken wing, stuff like that. This is goofy shit. Anyway, there's another warrant officer, Lindsay Wolf, who is now retired. I saw one of her videos on Facebook, and I was like, no kidding. This is cool. This is funny. This is neat. And I'm a warrant officer. I wonder, we'll just throw our hat in the ring, see what happens. So I made a TikTok. I did a lip sync to the scene from, I don't know why I did this. I did a lip sync to the scene from Captain America, the First Avenger, where Red Skull is like toasting and he's like, what does he say? He's like, cut off one head, two more shall take its place, Hail Hydra. And I was like holding my coffee cup. And it went nuts. And I was like, wow, people really seem to like that. And so just kept doing it. Yeah, just kept doing it.
Do the voices, like, where do those voices come from? Are those based on people? Are those characters that you've created over time in your head, or where does that come from?
It's kind of a mix. I didn't really start like lampooning the staff characters until maybe a year or two after I'd started making videos. And it was really some of the first, like, just me making the content, right? Not lip syncing or dancing or anything. I wanted to put my voice into my content and actually kind of have it be me. You know what I mean? And I think the first one I did was the Lieutenant Colonel, which is actually a direct spoof of my current boss. He one of the greatest leaders I've ever had, hands down, far and away. He's a very just a wise man. He's a good guy, but he's a character. You know what I mean? He falls into that category of like, he kind of dons that persona of, at the time he was a lieutenant colonel. He's a colonel now, but and he's in on the joke. He loves it. But yeah, it was just kind of like examining the tropes at all the levels of, hey, why do all majors do this? Why do all captains in the S3 act? Why do all chaplains talk and act a certain way? And even if they don't, they all kind of do the same thing. So even if the voice or the look isn't correct, there's still things in there that you can kind of grab and mix from all those communities and kind of hodgepodge them into a character and just kind of try to, it's just trying to hit things that people do see and feel familiar with, but we just kind of treat them. There's so many things that happen in the Army or in the military in general that are bizarre beyond explanation, and we don't bat an eye. And so those to me are the best nuggets of like, we do this all the time. It's super weird. That's funny. Let's make it a joke.
Yeah, I think, you hit on it, right? I mean, like, your impression of the warrant officer, your impression of the chaplain, the XO is one of my favorite, like, keeping everybody at work late to get the job done. Right, the S1. Right. I think, like, but you hit those stereotypes out of the park. And it is one of those things that it happens every day. We don't think about it. And then I'm sitting there. That was my introduction to you, right? Was Staff Wars when that came out. Someone was like, "Hey, you got to watch this." And it was one with the XO making people stay late and talking to the S1. And I was like, that shit's funny. And it's funny because those same scenarios have played out. You did one recently with the warrant officer getting his metrics updated with the S1. Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, it just feels real, and it allows us to, kind of laugh at ourselves. Yeah. Do you have any plans to introduce any new characters? Say maybe like, I don't know, an EOD tech or anything like that coming on?
Yeah, tall, dark, and handsome EOD tech. No, I'm always kind of trying. It's one of those things. Like I don't have any kind of like inflated view of it. It's just funny internet videos, but I do in a way kind of try to treat it like a sitcom a little bit, like Cheers or The Office or something. Like if I walk a new character onto the show, I want it to have meaning, obviously, like I want it to kind of represent those things that people are like, oh yeah, man, we have that guy in my platoon. But also, like, I kind of do want it to contribute to a narrative. The coolest thing, and one of the things that kind of drove me to make Staff Wars into kind of a cinematic universe, I guess, and like make the storyline for the saga piece, was people kept like commenting and talking about the lore, right? Sergeant Major lore. And I was like, let's just run with that. Let's actually have some lore. Let's actually have like a backstory. And it's really interesting and funny now, having done it for a couple of years, to make a video with Sergeant Major or McGillicuddy, and people will reference something that character said in a video 2 years ago. They're like, and I'm like, All right, that's a deep cut. I like that. So
No, it's awesome. Is it, you obviously have a very recognizable face, like what is that like when people bump into you and they're like, "Oh man, you're that dude, you're One Punch Dad." Like what's that like for you? Is that still weird?
uh, it's not as weird now. It always fills me up. I have had zero of those moments that I didn't enjoy. It was always such a delight. And it's, as a military content creator, you're in this interesting place. So if you're, you know, famous on the internet and you just walk to the store or you go into town, well, there's a pretty good shot that you're not immersed with your demographic, your audience. You might pass 100 people and none of them ever watched your videos. But being a military content creator, it is essentially like you played Iron Man in the Marvel movies, and every day you go to work at the convention at Comic-Con, and the people who enjoyed that performance are going to be there, and they're going to see you at the gym or at the commissary and stuff. So it is a unique thing where I'm making content for people, and I get to go be among them on a daily basis. And I always, whatever I'm doing, if someone comes up and wants a picture or wants to say, "Hey," I love that. I really do. It's not awkward for me. I think it's sometimes like it's awkward for them, but I love it. I try to tell my wife, I try to keep it Keanu, right? I try to, if you do see someone that you enjoy that way, and you see them out in the wild, I think you're entitled to have a pleasant experience with that person. So
I think it's a good outlook. What's next, man? I mean, are you looking to expand social media or keep it where it's at? I mean, do you have plans for what's coming next?
So I've tried a lot of things now that, it's the platforms have kind of grown, and just kind of trying to see. What I don't want to do is just rinse and repeat, over and over again. I think no one wants that. So I've kind of looked at some other things. I've been kind of doing some animation stuff, rough stuff on the side that hasn't gotten a great reception, but the people who do watch it do, they enjoy it. But it is kind of a departure from the content that I've made. And then I work other stuff in there. Like I'll still occasionally work some music into my content, which is a lot of fun. But I think overall, I just want to continue to make people laugh, and whatever shape that takes, whether I'm making, videos about these characters that I've made, or making, like a top 5 list, like, hey, these are the top 5 most annoying things, you know what I mean? Or the best things or the worst things. I just want to continue to make content that people who are in this very specific domain of life can come and feel refreshed and feel seen and feel validated in that, like, okay, I'm not the only one, right? That's kind of the point, and have a laugh while they're at it. So, I really, right now, the plan is to continue to do that. I am kind of looking, I'm within 3 years of retiring from the Army right now. So I'm kind of thinking of, do we, how much do we want to try to do this as a full-time thing? I've always wanted to be a voice actor. That's definitely something that I want to do, but I don't want to have it be like a night job. I don't want to moonlight. So I definitely want, and I want to give my best performance in my career as well, and not make this a distraction. So finding that balance has been tough, but yeah, for right now, is just keep making people laugh, man. That's kind of the plan.
Have you had anybody reach out to you, a civilian that has watched your content and said, "Hey man, because of the stuff that you're posting, I'm thinking about joining the Army"?
I have. And that's a very, it's not scary, but it's it gives me pause for sure. That is a super important decision for anyone to make, and to be a part of that, however small or big it was for them. I don't take it lightly. And I try to respect that. And I try to, I've actually had encounters with some of those people, in real life. And that is, it's almost like I don't have some kind of script of like what I say in response. I'm blown away. I hope that in that they get what they signed up for. We kind of talked about at the beginning there of like giving these young people an opportunity to do what they signed up for we kind of owe that to them. I mean, yes, it's going to be different than what they expected, but at the end of the day, we got to let these guys and girls do their job, and we got to give them the opportunity to know their job. And so I just hope that they get what they're paying for. So yeah, it has happened, and it is. I'm very proud, but also very, it gives me some pause for sure. Good pause.
You said you're a couple of years out from retirement. I know it was never the plan to go this long. Looking back at it in hindsight, would you do it all over again, man?
Absolutely. Even without the videos, even without being a warrant officer, my life's trajectory needed correction at a pretty fundamental level. I was not a reliable person. I was not a disciplined person. And I could have easily become a welder and maybe learn those characteristics, right? But what I did was join the Army. And I think now I'm living the most fantastic version of what could have happened. I love my job. I love helping people. I love getting to teach people. And I love to act and make people laugh, and being able to use what I've learned and gained as a soldier, as a warrant officer, to give people this place they can come to laugh and feel joy in a job that can be a drag big time. I really, I got it made in the shade, man. So absolutely would 10 out of 10 would do it again.
Well, hey, Josh, man, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. Thank you for the content you produce, for making me laugh and a bunch of other people laugh. I look forward to continuing our dialogue offline, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, man.